Is this the future of electric vehicle charging? Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of Artisan Electrics with yet another electric vehicle charging point. Today we are installing the Hypervolt electric vehicle charging point. I'm very excited about this because it's pretty new to the market. I'm one of the first people to be able to give it a go and install it, and it's got some interesting unique features which I think you guys are going to be really excited about. So before we get into it, hit a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already, hit the notification bell, and let's go. So this is a tethered charger. As you can see, we've got a type 2 cable on here, and to open up the casing, very simple, we've got these nice little grub screw Allen key type things. So we're just gonna take these 4 screws out, and they're nice quality stainless steel screws, which we always like to see with any products that are going to be installed outside. So now we've got our 4 screws taken out, we can just lift this off like so. So under here we have an interesting feature, this lightning bolt, which is the Hypervolt logo. There are LEDs in the case which are going to make this light up when we turn it on, which I think is really cool. I love a nice LED. Inside here are a few interesting features. So you can see these are the LEDs that I was talking about, and I believe these are color changing LEDs, which is quite cool. And then on the sides we have LEDs all the way around the outside as well. So top, side, bottom. So that's going to create a glow around, and then this glow as well, which will light up the front. But there's something else that makes it stand out inside. There is a computer inside here. This, if you look very carefully, is a Raspberry Pi. So the first ever electric vehicle charging point that I've seen with an entire computer inside, which I think is really awesome. But the idea behind putting a Raspberry Pi inside it is that it's really flexible and they can just do updates and change and add features and stuff like that. So it sort of future-proofs it, which I think is really genius. Behind the Raspberry Pi you've got all the normal circuitry as well. So in terms of safety features, this has all the things that we usually look for in a charging point. Interesting, another little feature in here, which again I've never seen in a charge point, but is quite clever. So that just clips off. In here, in the bottom, there's a tiny little fan. So like a computer, it has a fan to help it to keep cool as well. And the reason they did this is because they had clients in like places like Dubai and Emirates where the ambient temperature is pretty hot. And so, you know, they experience a few little issues with overheating. So how do you solve that? Just put a little fan in it. Brilliant. And then in the top here you've got a couple of little air vents as well, so that you've got complete airflow circulation, which I think is genius. But the fan will only kick in when it's above a certain temperature, so you don't have to worry about, like in this country for example, it's sort of sucking moist air through into the charger. It's really only designed for a hot environment, so it probably will never be used in this country, but it's just a cool little feature. Underneath we've got a compression gland here for our mains power cable, and then we've got this little nipply thing, I don't know what you call it, a cable nipple, where you can put your data cable in there. So that's what we'll probably use for our data cable. And then we've got terminals here for the power, so we've got just live, neutral and protective earth. Not a huge amount of space inside, but enough to terminate the cable properly, and overall the build quality looks pretty good. So far so good. Let's get it on the wall, connect it up and see how it works. The question is, can we use any of these fixing holes? My Swiss cheese wall is getting worse and worse. Somebody recommended to me in the comments that I should put some kind of board or something on this wall, but it's just going to look hideous. So for the moment I'm sticking to my original plan. But that is really nice, that plate. It's super easy to get it level and just mark the holes up. Yeah, it's lovely. So one of the things I love is that the top 2 screws are the ones that slot in. So you can put the screws in advance, like that. You know, we're all about ease of install. When we're fitting hundreds of these, we want it to be as easy as possible. So you just slot it on there, slot it down like that. Oh, and that cable is the perfect length, which I'm so pleased about, because I was worried that I was going to have to shorten the cable. Nice big compression gland with lots of space in it as well. It's perfect. Slot on. And then the 2 screws at the bottom just line up. Super easy. All we've got to do is connect the power now and then run our data cable in, which is probably the thing that's going to take the longest. Solid as a rock. So that's our mains connections in, and first impressions about these terminals are that they are really good quality. They don't budge when you screw them really tight, which is my kind of gauge, you know. You want to get a good solid connection on them, but if you turn the screwdriver a little bit too tight, sometimes if you've got these cheap connections, they sort of twist a little bit on the circuit board, but these don't, so that's really nice. Now I'm going to get the data cable in. So I've got this. This is armoured Cat 5e data cable, which I am going to use just to run the signal from the CTs to monitor the grid connection. We could run a hardwired data connection to this if we wanted to, but it's not necessary. It's got Wi-Fi. We've got good Wi-Fi signal here, so we're just going to do the internet connection to it via Wi-Fi. I'm going to get this in, just connect 2 of the twisted pairs to the CT connection, which goes here on the circuit board. Got a little gadget somewhere. This little gadget here. It's like a little connector block. So we'll wire the twisted pair into there, and then that's just going to click on to the circuit board to give the power connection to make sure that we don't overload the grid, which is very important if you've got an installation with high maximum demand. Introducing the Nepix Ergo Strip, one of my favourite tools. Simply twist and slide. A wonderful way to deal with armoured cables. And what we're going to do with this is use a little miniature hacksaw just to cut the armouring off. This armouring is just, you know, it's a bit over the top really for this kind of installation, but when you are running external cables, it's good to use armoured cable if you can. It's quite a clever little gland, this nipply thing. I've never really come across one of these before, but I quite like it. If anyone knows what the official name of this nipply thing is, let me know. If it is a nipple gland, that would be quite hilarious, because it just grips really nicely onto the cable. That's perfect. We've got our data cable long enough. Tuck that neatly in there. Do a little bit of magic on this, just to strip the end. Which colour shall we use? Let me know in the comments, which colour would you choose? I think it has to be blue, because blue is our colour as artisan, so let's go with that. We need a teeny tiny screwdriver and our little connector block, and we can just strip these very carefully, like so, and then connect them in here. So that is going to plug in to here. Click, and we're done. Now the question is, where does this data cable have to run to? So in this case, we're going to run it to our meter box, which is just over there, and we're going to put the current transformer clamped around the main incoming supply tail, so that we're measuring the whole installation load, and we can make sure that we don't overload the main cutout fuse. Here it's 100 amps, so we can set a grid limit of 100 amps. And what will happen is, if the power consumption of the whole house is say 90 amps, it will ramp the charge point down to 10 amps really quickly, so that it stops it from blowing the main fuse. It's just a safety feature, but it's quite important if you've got a lot of loads in your house. So we've got some extremely long cable ties, which are far too long for what we need, but we're just going to cable tie this to the supply cable. In an ideal world, if I was rewiring this, I would just run an EV Ultra cable in, but because it's at my own house and I'm likely to change the charging point again in a few weeks time, because I tend to fit a new one every few weeks to try different ones out, I'm not really bothered. I'm just going to leave the separate data cable in rather than having an integrated one in EV Ultra cable. But my little tip for cable ties is, don't cut the top like that. Cut the bag like that, and then you can just pull them out like this, and if you shake the bag around, they don't fall out, which is quite good, because there's nothing worse than having a bag of cable ties and then they all fall everywhere. welcome to the meter box. Our data cable is here. So all we've got to do now is gently put this data cable in. And already my nice hidden cable has popped out of the trench. I think I'm going to need to cable tie it to that pipe. So what we're going to do is just strip this back enough to get our two cores, our blue cores, onto a CT, and then we'll connect that CT to here. We've got the old one from previous charging point, but we're not going to use that. We'll just unclip that for the moment, but it's going to do exactly the same thing. There we go. There's our twisted pair. Now you want to leave the twisted pair twisted together as long as possible, because that helps the signal to travel properly. This side it's kind of twisted together as well. This CT or current transformer just clamps on, and you want the arrow pointing towards the consumer unit, so away from the incoming supply basically. So I'm going to wrap it around like that and click it on. I think that's the way anyway with these ones. I'll double check it in the instructions in a minute, but that just clicks on there, and then this will connect on to this. I'm going to unclip it because you can actually, this creates a sort of an induced voltage when you clip it around, and you can get sparks off the end of this if you're not careful. I mean, it's very low voltage anyway, so it's nothing to worry about really, but rather than making sparks, I'll just do it on here. So we've got these little Wago connectors just to connect the wires to the data cable that we've put in. Strip the end off this, like so, and then we'll do the black with the solid blue and the white with the dotted blue, solidly connected on together there. What I'm going to do as well is just wrap a bit of tape around this, maybe a couple of cable ties actually, just to keep them secure together, because we don't want them to pull out or anything. I'm leaving this data cable far too long, but it's just because I don't know if I need to repurpose this at a later date, so kind of a temporary style installation. If we were doing it permanent, then it would be a lot more robust, shall we say. Okay, so we've got that. It's all sort of neatly connected up, and now we can put the current transformer on. That clicks on there. Okay, so we've got our current transformer clipped onto the main tail here. Cable's sort of tied up. It's not the neatest, but it's functional, which is what we want at the moment. Normally I would put that into some kind of enclosure in here, but because it's temporary and because we've got a proper enclosure anyway, I'm not that fussed. So we're just going to close that up, power the charger on, and get it all set up at the other end. Did that just flash? Oh yeah! Check it out. So this is all a bit fancy. We like an LED. Look at that. Awesome. Doesn't take much to impress us. Look at that. It's like Blackpool illuminations. We love it. So just livened it up, you know, with the cover off just to check everything. But I'm happy with that. I'm going to clip this in now. See what. Oh, look at that. That is awesome. I like it a lot. So we're going to have to carefully tuck this in. Yeah, there we go, that just tucks in like that. Beautiful. So that goes in there, and there's plenty of room there, that's good. And then this will just slide on. So in terms of safety features, this has pen fault detection built in, which means that you don't need an earth rod. You can just install it directly off a circuit, but it will need a type A RCD to protect it. It's got built-in 6 milliamp DC protection, so you don't need an expensive type B RCD, but you do need a type A RCD. And normally the regs recommend a double pole, so you'll probably need a separate enclosure with a type A RCBO or a 32 amp MCB, and then out of that into type A RCD just to protect the charge point. Or you could just run it off for example, if you've got like a double stack Hager board, like a dual RCD Hager board with type A RCDs in, then you could run it off an RCD way within that board, off a 32 amp circuit breaker. They do recommend a type C circuit breaker if possible, because of possible inrush current from the vehicle, but you can run it off a type B as well. It's not the end of the world. It's got pretty much everything you would need. Pen fault detection, that's sort of the ultimate really. So that's great. Cover's on. I'm going to put these grub screws in and then going to get set up. So now it's time to set up everything in the app. Hypervolt have their own app. So I'll open that up and I have to click sign up to set up an account. You can sign up with Google, sign up with Apple, or you can just do your own email address and password thing. So I'm just going to do that. So thank you for choosing us. Let's start with finding your charger and adopting it. That's nice, isn't it? Adopt a charger. Then you can connect it to your Wi-Fi network to get the most out of it. Okay, so let's press start. It wants my location. Allow once. Oh, and here we go. An unknown device name, Hypervolt 0692 is available. Click. Ready for adoption. Ah, your charger is ready to be adopted. This is cool. Once you adopt it, you can control it from your phone and you have access to all the historical data. I like it. Let's adopt our Hypervolt charger. Adopting. Okay, that's it. It's done. We're in. Amazing. LED brightness. Ooh. So, we can turn the brightness up and down. Well, that's a cool feature. So, let's see what it can do. So it's stopped now. We can turn it, well, let's plug the car in, shall we? I guess that's the first most important part, rather than trying to just change the light brightness, which I think is really cool. There we go. And then it's just plug and play. And I have to tell my Tesla to start charging. Start charging. There we go. We have a glowing green light. How exciting. This is genius. I just been on the phone to the team at Hypervolt and they were able to check things at their end and see exactly what's going on with this, which is incredible. So they can now see how much electricity my house is using. I've set the grid limit on this to 100 amps. So if we get anywhere close to 100 amps in the house and this vehicle is charging, what will happen is it will ramp it down to avoid blowing the main fuse, which is really cool. And you can adjust the grid limit with this. There's just like a little rotary switch inside that you set it to a different number. You can go from 120 amps all the way down to like 10 amps or something. So that's really cool. And then in here, I can input my price per kilowatt hour into the app and it will tell me how much it's cost me for each charging session, which I think is a really great feature. It tells me how many kilowatt hours I've used so far, how much that's cost me, and actually how much CO2 I've saved as well, which is really interesting. So far, really loving that. It will tell me my energy usage and it'll give me analytics. So as time goes by, I'm going to build up a data set for the charging and for how much my house is using, which is really, really cool. And you've got two settings. You've got plug and charge, or you can set it to schedule charge. And you can add various sessions to say start charging at this time, stop charging at this time. So it's pretty flexible. Obviously you can do that with this vehicle as well, but some vehicles don't have that option. So all in all, pretty cool. And the LED brightness thing is just a nice little gimmick, but you can just turn the LED brightness up and down. So if it's annoying your neighbours because it's a little bit too bright, then you can turn it down. But if you're having a party and you want all your friends to be impressed by it, you can ramp it right up and you can have a bit of a rave in the garden with your charge point. So that is pretty cool. So it's been a couple of weeks now. As you can tell by this bizarre straggly beard that I'm trying to grow, it's a slow process. But I've been able to use this charger for a couple of weeks now at my home and I've got to say I'm super impressed. The LEDs are not just a gimmick. They are a secret code that is not that secret. They're there to tell you exactly what the charge point is doing at any given moment. So right now it's blue. That's just telling me that power's onto the charging point and it's ready to charge. When I unwind it and plug my vehicle in, tell my Tesla to start charging, the charge point goes green. That tells me that it's currently charging, which is fantastic. Then, if I want to do a scheduled charge, I can put it into scheduled charging mode. It goes purple. So the purple light tells me that it's scheduled to charge later on, but it's not actually charging at the moment. There's also a red light that tells you if there's an error. But here's a really cool thing, and this is just a gimmick, but it's really cool. Alexa, tell my Hypervolt to get this party started. Like it's 1999. So yes, the LEDs have a function, but they're also really cool, which is even better. They tell you what the charge point does, but they're also great fun, and you've got these little cool features like this. What else do I love about the Hypervolt Charger? One of the things I've been super impressed by over the last couple of weeks is just their customer service. It really is second to none. I've phoned their customer service line several times just to ask a few questions, you know, as I'm learning and going along. And their response time is incredible. No more hours on the phone waiting for technical help to answer. They answer straight away. They talk to their customers and they're available to their customers day and night. And I've just been on the phone to the CEO of Hypervolt and he said that to me. All of our team here are dedicated to be there to talk to our customers 24/7, and that is incredible. And that's reflected in the fact that they've got only 5-star reviews on Trustpilot, which is another great sign of a company that has a lot of good things to come in the future. Another thing that I initially didn't think much about, but is actually incredible, is the fact that they've got instant over-the-air updates. And what that means is that this is so simple to set up for us as installers. There's no like, press this button, go through this menu, pair this up. It just works. You connect it to the Wi-Fi and that's it. Hypervolt are constantly updating and improving things, and they just push the updates via these over-the-air updates that we as end users don't even need to think about. There's no firmware updates to worry about. It's so simple, and that is the future of EV charging. EV charge points need to be Wi-Fi connected. They need to be able to have over-the-air updates because, let's face it, technology is changing, new vehicles are coming out all the time, and if a charge point doesn't have those kind of features, it is going to become redundant in the not too distant future. So this, in my opinion, is the future of electric vehicle charging. A charge point that's so simple and easy to set up and connect, that has all the safety features built in that you need in a charging point. It looks great, it's easy to set up, and it has over-the-air updates, but also has a customer service team backing it up. That means if anything goes wrong, you know that they'll take care of you and sort it out in a very short amount of time, which is all you can ask for when it comes to a company who's producing a product that you rely on so much. Because let's face it, if you can't charge your car, you've got a bit of a problem. So overall, this is a game changer for me. Hypervolt are doing something that no other companies are doing right now, and they're leading the way in terms of the technology and their customer service. So head to the link in the description if you want to find out more about this Hypervolt charger. I think you'll be suitably impressed. I know I'm going to be installing more of these going forward in the future, and maybe you will too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.